It's not that you will receive eternal life. You already have it.
All month, we're talking about the Christ consciousness and the cosmic self. And we spend a lot of time in our spirituality talking about being one with God, building our relationship with the divine, recognizing our higher self. And yet on Easter, we actually want to move ourselves into a different place, a different understanding of who we really are. This cosmic self. Now it's interesting, Easter fundamentally was co-opted by the Christian tradition from a deeper, older pagan tradition in the celebration of Ishtar, and it is where we get our bunnies and our rabbits and our eggs from, because it is the celebration of spring, the celebration of rebirth and renewal. It's the celebration of newness, new creations, new forms. And it's the celebration of the incarnation of life. As life incarnates through the beautiful flowers, the leaves that begin to push out on the trees, and, of course, all the young things that grow. And on Easter, we celebrate that incarnation. And so when we think about it from a metaphysical point of view, and we really want to explore what does the incarnation mean for us? What is this new form that we're celebrating? What is this new thing that's going on? It's something that has been birthed out of the evolving spirituality and the evolving evolution of the human species, as we have begun to understand something that the mystics have known all along. Right, the mystics have given us the teaching. There's only one thing happening, one infinite power and presence. And yet, there's all this stuff happening. You and me and birds and trees and stars and planets and wars and money and health, and there's all these things going on. And over and over and over and over again, the mystics tell us it's all one. There's only one thing happening. And I think in our metaphysics, we struggle with it sometimes, particularly if we're steeped in the notion that God is Father. As parent, then we become a child of the divine. We become, and therefore we think of ourselves as something that the universe made, created. So there's the universe, or God, the divine, and that which it created, us over here, along with the physical universe. But we are catching up to what the mystics have known. We are seeing it from a new way. And so we're exploring that in this book, You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters, by Deepak Chopra and a gentleman, or a woman I don't actually know, whose name I can't pronounce, Menace. And if you're a science nerd like me, the first half of this book explores how science has colluded with our senses to believe that we're separate. And how science has continued to invite us to believe in the facts of our external reality as if it was somehow out there and we're over here. And then psychology has continued on with that conversation, because there's objective reality and then there's my subjective experience of that reality. And yet we're learning at the deepest levels of science, in the notion of the quantum field, we're learning something very different, very new. Well, maybe new to us out of a scientific point of view, which the ancients have shared all along. That at some deep and profound level, there's only one thing happening here. Now, we often say, well, we're one. I'm one with you, you're one with me. And we mean that from a human point of view, right? We're all part of the human family, and if we're all one, then we can love each other and accept each other, and we shouldn't have all these differences and boundaries, and that is great. But it's actually not what we're talking about. This oneness is a deeper, more profound oneness. It's not just that we're one with each other, but we are the one, the universal reality, being us as individuals. We are one with the infinite. We are one as the infinite. So, Deepak Chopra writes this: human beings might be a bright idea the universe had, and once the idea occurred to it, cosmic mind decided to run with it. Why? What's so enticing about human beings, troublesome and pained as we are? Only one thing. We allow the universe to be aware of itself in the dimensions of time and space. So, let's just breathe that in for a moment. We allow the universe to be aware of itself in the dimensions of time and space. In other words, at this very moment, the cosmos is thinking through you. Whatever you happen to be doing, riding a bike, eating a Reuben sandwich, making a baby, is a cosmic activity. Take away any stage in the evolution of the universe, and this moment vanishes into thin air. As astounding as such a claim might be, this book has been building up to it all along. Quantum physics makes it undeniable that we live in a participatory universe. It's only a small step to realize that that participation is total. Our minds are fused with cosmic mind. Science of Mind would echo that when it says, your mind and my mind is the mind of the universe, the mind of the one. And when we think and we act and we be, we are the universe expressing itself. We are here to give expression in the space-time continuum to the universal. Actually, we are the universal giving itself expression in the space-time continuum. He goes on to write this: consciousness isn't in the universe any more than wetness is in water, or sweetness in sugar. One doesn't say, well, this water is almost right, we just have to add a little wetness to it. Or, well, I love this sugar, but it would be even better if you could figure out how to make it sweet. In the same way, consciousness isn't a magic dust you sprinkle on inert atoms to make them capable of thinking. Consciousness has to be there already. Now, the Hindus have been teaching this for centuries, for millennium. It comes to Science of Mind through the work of Thomas Troward. And Ernest Holmes says it in the Science of Mind textbook. In Hinduism, it is written sort of poetically. Consciousness sleeps in the rocks, waves in the plants, moves in the animals, and awakens in the human being. One continuum of consciousness. Consciousness is actually the only thing happening. The consciousness of the universe itself in its ultimate beingness, which then pours itself into expression, which is creation. And we are the product of that evolutionary trajectory so that the universe could wake up to itself. Now, we might not be the only place where that's happening. Could be happening in other beings on this planet, could be happening other places in the universe. What we know is that it's happening right here, right now, in you and I. Finally, he says this: it is a dualistic setup, my mind, different from the cosmic mind. We think of it as much smaller, for one thing, and its viewpoint is limited to the experiences I've had since birth. Yet, if we abandon the illusion of separation, there is no need to choose either my mind or the cosmic mind. The mind feels personal and at the same time is cosmic. Imagine that you are a single electron flickering in and out of the quantum vacuum. And as a single particle, you feel like me, an individual. But in reality, you are an activity of the quantum field, and in your guise as a wave instead of a particle, you exist everywhere. But in reality, you are an activity, In our daily lives, we are accustomed to feel like individuals while overlooking that on another level, every person is an activity of the universe. What is true for an electron is true for structures like the human body that are constructed from electrons and for who we are. When you live in a separation, ignoring your holistic self, life resembles pre-sliced bread. The urge to divide and subdivide allows science to claim, quite falsely, that objectivity and subjectivity were entirely different, with objectivity being the superior part. But the quantum era has abolished this division, and in reality started to lead in a whole new direction. But can reality ever be seen directly as a whole with no divisions or separations? Well, gosh, it sounds like a spiritual quest, which in prior age would be called union with God or Atman or Satori. Reaching beyond separation was motivated by the desire to commune with spirit and at the same time to escape earthly suffering. But now, the urge is different. Now it is focused much more on higher consciousness and fulfilling one's potential. Finding this new motivation is important because it is the truth of who we came here to be. It's no longer about just figuring out how to get by, how to survive, how to move out of suffering, but to truly understand that who we are is the mind of the one experiencing itself in creation and getting to express that truth. And it's no longer about healing or fixing or figuring out how to overcome the brokenness of suffering. It is, in fact, becoming aware of this cosmic reality as the truth of our very life, and to share in the expression of that, to claim that that is who we came here to be who we are in its fullness, in its wholeness, in its totality, and to allow our doing in life to be the beingness of who we are expressed. And when we do that, what is it that the mystics tell us? That's love. Love. Ernest Holmes says it is the self-givingness of spirit into creation as an expression of itself. And so, right here, right now, we remember that when we live in our cosmic self and when we know the truth of who we are, love is always the answer.
Set us free. Love is the answer.
All right. Light of the world, shine on me. Well, perhaps, actually, wouldn't it be wonderful if the song moved into and as light of the world, shine as me? Shine as me. So Ernest Holmes talks about this, and he talks about it as it relates to the Christ consciousness and who Jesus is and was. He says, he always spoke of the one universal consciousness embodied through himself, the idea of the personal sonship or daughtership is the Christ. As the human consciousness comprehends more and more of the cosmic, as more spirit let itself down through this man Jesus, Jesus gave way to the Christ of the cosmic mind. So when we identify ourselves, our own self, as the cosmic self, then we actually begin to truly begin to live, and to begin to live as the light of the world, as me, as our true self. He also talks about how Jesus understood his own nature. He knew that as the human embodies the divine, it manifests the Christ nature. And he never thought of himself different than others. His whole teaching was that what he did, others could do. He located God in the kingdom of heaven within himself. Not somewhere outside, but within himself. And he had plunged beneath the material surface of creation and found its spiritual cause. This cause he called God, or the Father. So Jesus knew who he was. He knew that the Father and I are one. Not there's the Father and I. It's the causality, God, the Father, as me. So he said over and over again, as you see me, you see the Father. As you see me, you see the Father. And that's the universal cosmic self. And it is that, and that primary premise of when you see me, you see the Father. And it is one that allowed him, that caused him, that was him. And that is how he performed the miracles that he did. So he was speaking from this cosmic self, this place that Dr. Peacher described, and we also call this the Christ consciousness. It is that awareness of the incarnation, and it is that awareness that the incarnation is each of us. I am the incarnate. Now this might be a little uncomfortable, but could we just try that on for just a minute on this Easter Sunday? I am the incarnate. Would you say that? I am the incarnate. Let's try it on a little deeper. I am the incarnate. Okay, let's try that again. I am the incarnate. Yes, I am the incarnate, the divine made manifest. I am incarnated. I am the Son. I am the daughter. I am the Father. I am the Mother. I am the incarnation of the universal. That is his teaching. Ernest Holmes tells us that there is no one particular man predestined to become the Christ. We must understand the Christ not as a person, but as a principle. It was impossible for Jesus not to have become the Christ as the human gave way to the divine, as the man gave way as God, as the flesh gave way to spirit, as the will of division gave way to the will of unity. He says Jesus the man became the living embodiment of the Christ. And it is because of this and his awareness of this and how he took this up, this reality that we're speaking of, that it is that transcended death, that is so talked about on this particular Sunday as it comes around. That we're not separate and that we're not our bodies. We're not this physical body. And when we don't have the fear of the unknown and we don't have the fear of the death, that death is happening, and when we absolutely know that this thing called the promise of the resurrection is eternal life, then we break through to a new place in the way that we come into the life of our own and the truth of who we are, the Christ consciousness. See, it's not that you will receive eternal life. You already have it. You are it. So it's not something that has to happen, and there doesn't have to be a physical death in order for you to get or have eternal life somewhere there. You already have it. You are already it. And so this cosmic self is the realization of who we truly are. And Jesus is merely the name of a man. Ernest Holmes says that Christ means the universal principle of divine sonship, the generic human, the divine pattern. So we are that incarnation being in the world. We are that. And when we know that, really know that, and when we embody that, then it is that Christ consciousness, and we are the Christ consciousness that is now moving into the world from that place. We are living in the world as that place. And when we do that, and as we do that, every single person around us, heads turned. It appears like miracles. It appears like something special. It appears that it's something that ought to be worshiped, but that is who we are. And goodness knows, we need more of that, knowing and realization and moving from that place in the world. And that is what is the power and the presence that lets you speak the word. And the word is made manifest because you know who you are. The Easter message this morning is truly about eternal life is not promised you through the resurrection. This is the evidence of our eternal life. It's not the resurrection happened and now you're promised it. The resurrection has already happened because the incarnation of the universal is by definition eternal. It always has been. It always shall be. And Jesus simply evidenced that. In fact, he went along his life, as we know, performing miracles. And whether it was get up and walk from a paralyzed man to someone that had been blind and said, now you see, to loaves and fishes and walking on the water, et cetera, all these miracles, he was attempting perhaps in that day to get everyone around him's attention and say, don't you get it? This is it. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And when that didn't work, he then went and said, okay, willingly, kill my body. Kill my body. And then it was like, see, you can't even eliminate the light. When you do that, do you get it? He came back to say, do you get it? I'm still here. You cannot snuff out the light. The light is the truth of who we are, and that changes everything. And that is how we move in the world as the cosmic self. The light of the world shines as me. Say that in this moment. The light of the world shines as me. And when we know we are the light, we can then, with moxie, declare, I am that I am. I am the light.
I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all.
We say the words, right? But we actually want to understand and to experience that they're true. I am light. I am not all of these other labels and experiences and things. And there is a light of consciousness, a light of love in the world, a light that is the impulse, the trajectory of life itself. And science is beginning to understand that this cosmos is like an egg, alive with a light. And that light is the truth of all reality. And that includes us. And so, on this Easter Sunday, we wanted to try to find some way for us to experience that, or to at least symbolically recognize that this is the truth about who we are. And this is why we celebrate Easter, is to remember this, that we are the light, and that changes everything about who we know ourselves to be. So we're going to begin here by, in fact, cracking open our cosmic egg. And this is one of the traditional ways in which, in indigenous peoples and in current science today, in trying to get a hold of the metaphor that the universe is not dead. It isn't that God went, oh, there's the universe, poof, and then, well, have at it, I'll be watching. That there's this deep and profound reality that the universe itself, from the moment of the Big Bang, is the expression of life. And that it in and of itself is alive, is conscious, and is the light made manifest. And it looks like it's something separate and something defined. And yet the reality of it is that it is the light of the one. You see the microcosm, macrocosm, right? Here's the macrocosm, here's the microcosm. Identical in nature. Identical in nature. The macrocosm and the microcosm. Ernest Holmes says this: reason declares that which is infinite cannot be divided against itself. The infinite is, therefore, indivisible and consequently a perfect unit. All of it is present at any and every point within itself. It is not approaching a point, nor receding from it, but is always at that point. The whole of God is present at any and every point within the one. He goes on to say this: within this infinite mind, each individual exists, not as a separated, but as a separate entity. We are a point in universal consciousness, which is God, and God is our life, spirit, mind, and intelligence. We are not separated from life, neither is it separated from us. But we are separate entities in it, individualized centers of God consciousness. He goes on to say this: the higher sense of truth, the greater will be the realization of the uniqueness of individual character and personality. This real self is God-given and cannot be denied. It is the place where God comes to a point of individualized and personified expression. I am the light of the world. We have now discovered a unity with the whole on the three sides of life. We are one with the body of the physical universe, one with the creative law of the universe, and one with the Spirit of God. Could we ask or hope for more? Would it be possible for more to be given? We could not ask for more, and no greater freedom could be given. From now on, we shall expand, grow, and express only to the degree that we are consciously understand our place in the whole. All the great mystics have taught this same thing. They have all agreed that the soul is on the pathway of experience, that is, of self-discovery, that it is on its way back to the Father's house, to the one, and that every soul will ultimately reach its full potential. The microcosm of the macrocosm. Do you see? Identical in nature. This is who you are. This is why you're the light of the world. This is why you're not broken or damaged. Because this is the identity of your true self. And because the reality of that consciousness is contained within the whole, it's also contained within the one. And so in closing, if you would repeat after me, I am the incarnation.
I am the incarnation.
I am the light of the world.
I am the light of the world.
I am the universe made light.
I am the universe made light.
I accept this truth.
I accept this truth.
And so it is.
And so it is.
There's one thing that I know for sure. This stuff really works. I know that if you apply these principles and put them to use in your life will not ever be the same. It'll be more grand and glorious than you can ever imagine. How do I know that? Because thanks to people like you given to a community over 10 years ago, I got to walk in and find these spiritual principles and put them to use in my life. And now I get to share these principles with you. So I ask you to give to CSL Dallas. Give to our purpose and our mission here, that we are radically inclusive, we're spiritually progressive, and we transform lives. And I know that what you heard today, when you put it to use in your life, it'll absolutely transform your life. When we're touched by this impulse of transformation and we give from that impulse comes back to us 1,000-fold. And we keep building and growing and expanding and touching the consciousness of humanity itself. And we're bringing love, purpose to this. So I invite you to go to CSLDallas.org and give. Or you can text, like I like to do. And you can do that easily by texting 972-954-4404. Set it up once, and then you text from that point on. It's easy to do. Thanks for being a part of our community. Thank you for helping us to expand our mission and purpose. And thank you for being the love impulse that humanity is awakening to in every moment.